Hey family, we are back for another Bible study. Okay, we're going to start this Bible study off with Deuteronomy 31 and 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Okay, and this is what God told Joshua after Moses had died, and it was now his time to lead Israel. You can just imagine how scared Joshua was, because Joshua was once a part of the crowd, following Moses just like everybody else. And God called him to lead. And you know, people probably was wondering why God chose Joseph. Joshua. Why? What was? What did Joshua have that I don't have? And if you actually go back in the story, you see that when God sent them to, take over the land that he had promised Abraham, okay? Because of this covenant, okay? This is the same covenant he made to Abraham. It took 5 generations, but he kept his promise, okay? And so Joshua is completing the promise. And, other people, they were afraid, okay? They was afraid to go after the promise because they felt like the giants was too big. But Joshua wasn't, and he saw an opportunity to, overcome those giants, and that's why God chose him. But people don't be seeing that though, right? They don't be seeing what you're willing to do that they're not. All they know is they feel like they're more qualified than you, and that they should have the opportunity and not you, okay? So it was probably people feeling this way about Joshua, right? And so God was letting him know that, people might feel this way about me choosing you, okay? And the enemy might send people to attack you, to try to lead you away from me. But as long as you stay focused on me, I will protect you. I will keep you in my arms, and I will lead you so that you will continue to be prosperous and live a long life, because God comes to give us life and to live more abundantly. So how do you get this type of protection? How do you get this protection that Moses had, that Joshua had, that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and his sons? How do you get that type of protection? Okay? Because this protection is not just given, it's conditional, okay? God just don't give this out to anybody. You gotta be willing to do certain things. You got to be willing to make certain sacrifices. And if you really think about it, that is the exact same thing if you choose to be successful in your life. If you went to a business class, that would be the exact same thing they would tell you. In order to be successful, you got to be willing to do certain things other people ain't willing to do. You got to be willing to sacrifice things other people don't want to give up, right? And when you do the things that you gotta do, and you sacrifice the things that you know you need to sacrifice, that's holding you back, that's keeping you from being successful, only then when you will have success in your life, okay? So if you really think about it, these famous people, all these successful people and these gurus, they are simply using God's power in order to be successful in their life. They are following God's law in order to be successful in their life. Some of them, they might be, it's hard to say this because they're following, what it takes, but yet they're still living for the fallen. It's hard because the fallen, they don't have any power. They teach God's power, but as God put it, they pervert it. They make you do the opposite of what God tell you in order to use God's power, okay? So they're basically, in a way, doing God you're doing what it takes, but they're doing it in the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, and when you do it in the wrong way, when things get tough because you did the right things in the wrong way, you don't get protection from God, okay? And the enemy, he doesn't protect. He leaves you when you're in a bad situation to figure it out on your own. But God says he never forsakes you. That is the difference, okay? So the enemy can teach you how to use God's power to be successful in your life. But when things get tough, you won't have any protection. So if you do it God's way, you have the protection when things get bad, because things get bad, That is, unfortunately what we have to deal with because of sin, and because the fallen and all of that is, you're going to have some good days and you're going to have some bad days. But when the bad days come, who do you have on your side is the question, okay? Will that person back you up when times get tough? Short little story, okay? When I was younger, I went to like a skate party and I was hanging out with this girl and we was having fun. And then, after the little skate party, whatever thing, these girls came up to me trying to fight me over her. I had no clue what was going on. I was in my own little world inside that skate party, okay? I had no clue what had happened between them, but they wanted to fight me because of her, okay? And was she there to help me fight these girls when they was fighting me because of her? No. And that's what it's like with the enemy. It's like you following behind him, and then you have these things that come up that want to destroy you because of him. And then you're out here trying to fight to protect yourself, and he is nowhere to be found. And you're going through all of this mess because of him. Okay? But, when you follow God, it's like no matter who want to come up against you, how bad and big and bad they think they are, like Goliath, God will help you defeat them. And you won't have to have no, the people that were trying to fight Goliath before, they had swords, they had all this armor, they had, all these type of weapons, but couldn't destroy him. And all David had was a rock and a slingshot, and he was able to do something those people that had more, more training, more weapon, more everything than him. And that's because he had God, okay? So how do you get this type of protection, okay? Because like I said, it's conditional. It's not just given to you. It's not a birthright type of thing. It's not, a privilege type thing. You don't get it just because you are a descendant from Israel or something like that. It's conditional. When God gave Moses the laws and the commands and the decrees to tell the people, in order to receive the benefits of following the laws, they had to first agree to the laws, okay? So, sorry, I'm kind of out of breath. All right, and so in Deuteronomy 5, it also tells us, like, God tell them, if you follow these laws, decrees, you will have a long life, you will live prosperous, and you will prolong the days of your lives if you agree to these laws, to following these laws, okay? And so we're going to go through, and we're going to go through both covenants so you can see how to, one, have protection and how to live a long, prosperous life, okay? So we're going to start in Genesis. We're going to go to 21. Genesis 21. Sorry, you guys, I'm trying to get to it. And we're going to just read 1 through 5, okay? And now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, okay? 8 days is very important, okay? Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him, okay? Okay, we're going to go to Genesis 17. We're going to read 1 through 14. This is when God made the covenant with Abram, okay? It says, when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers. Abram fell face down, and God said to him, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting, okay? Everlasting. That means it will never end. Not until humanity end, okay? So forever and ever. That means today. This covenant is still in effect, okay? Everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you, for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Then God said to Abraham, as for you, you must keep my covenant and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you for the generations to come. Every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner. Those who are not your offspring, whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant is in your flesh, okay? So the covenant is only good through the flesh. If you do not sacrifice the flesh, there is no covenant, okay? It's to be an everlasting, okay? He's telling us again, this covenant is forever. It does not end, okay? Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So as we can see, this covenant is very important, okay? God literally tells you, if you do not, it's not just for Abraham and his family only, it's for everybody, okay, that wants to be received by God, you have to be circumcised or he will not receive you, okay? You will not be welcomed by God if you do not be circumcised, okay? He will cut you off. You won't be a part of the promise, okay? So, as you can see, this is very important because God mentions it so many times, okay? He even mentions it in the book of Jubilee, okay? And the book of Joshua, okay? And I'm going to show you this, you guys, because I want you to see this is very important to him, okay? It's a simple covenant, okay? And it's like only for the males, okay? So, but you know, if you're married and your husband is not circumcised, then he's not a part of the promise and he's leading you, okay? So even though this is only for the males, it affects the household, okay? Because the male's supposed to, be in leadership, okay? Even though y'all partners, okay? Because of sin, because Eve made a choice without consulting with her husband first, now it's not like he's like owner of her, but it's like now we have to agree, okay? Before we can make a decision, I can make a decision or you make a decision. We have to agree first, okay? If we don't agree, then it can't happen, okay? And God repeats this in another book that I read that I can't remember right now, but he basically says that even if God, as a woman, tell you to do something, okay, and you tell your husband, okay, this is what God has called me to do, and he's like, no, then it's like God says you have to be obedient to your husband, okay? So that's why it's good to know your husband and be equally yoked before you get married, because you don't want somebody that's going to come in between you and God, okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say, okay? Okay, so we're going to go to Jubilee, chapter 15. And I'm going to show you again where God mentions this, okay? Because this is the first part. It's like a 2-part promise, okay? He made the first part with Abraham and the second part with Moses. And they have to go together, okay? You can't do one without the other, okay? So this is the first part of the promise, so it's serious, okay? Okay, so we here in the book of Jubilees, chapter 15, and here we go. Verses 13 says, he that is born in the house will surely be circumcised, and those whom you might bought with money will be circumcised, and my covenant will be in your flesh, for it's an eternal ordinance, okay? And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul will be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant, okay? And then jump down to 25. It says, this law is for all generations forever. Okay, this is a law. Okay, so if you're not doing this, you're breaking the first law. Okay, and there is no circumcision of the days and no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written in the heavenly tables. And every one that is born, the flesh of whose forsaken is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which the Lord made with Abraham, but to the children of the destruction. Nor is there moreover any sign on him that he is the Lord's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth and to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord our God. Okay, we in the book of Joshua, chapter 17. Here we go. And Abraham, the son of Terah, was 99 years old At the time, the Lord appeared to him, and he said to him, I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly multiply your seed. And this is the covenant which I make between me and you, that every male child be circumcised, you and your seed after you. At 8 days old will it be circumcised, and the covenant will be in your flesh, for it's an everlasting covenant. So as you can see, this covenant is very important, okay? It lasts forever, okay? So it's still good now, it's still valid now, okay? And it will be forever valid as long as humans are walking this earth, okay? Until judgment day. This covenant will be valid, okay? So God says you should wait 8 days after your child is born, okay? And then circumcise it. It has to be on the 8th day, okay? But I kind of feel like God gives a little leeway. I feel like as long as you do it before you die, you good. I kind of feel that way, okay? And this is why I feel this way. I'm gonna show you in the book of Joshua, I believe. I'm gonna show you why I feel as long as you do it before, okay, you die, you should be good, okay? Okay, so this is the evidence, the proof to back me up what I was saying. Joshua 79, chapter 8. And Moses rose up to go to Egypt, and he took his wife and son with him. Okay, this is just after he, talked to God at the burning bush, okay? And God had told him to go to Egypt to free his people, okay? So now he's getting ready to leave for Egypt. And he's taking his wife and son, okay? And it says he went at an inn in the road, and the angel of God came down and sought an occasion against him. And he wished to kill him on account of his firstborn son, because he had not circumcised him. And he transgressed the covenant which the Lord had made with Abraham. For Moses had hearkened to the words of his father-in-law, which he had spoken to him, not to circumcise his firstborn son. Therefore he circumcised him not. And Zipporah saw the angel of the Lord seeking an occasion against Moses, and she knew that this thing was owing to him not having circumcised her son Gershom. And Zipporah hastened and took of the sharp rock stones that were there, and she circumcised her son and delivered her husband and her son from the hand of the angel of the Lord. Okay, so that's why I say I feel like God gives you a little wiggle room. I feel like if you're already a follower of God, okay, and you know right from wrong, okay, you know the covenant, then God is like, okay, you have 8 days. Not really 8 days on the 8th day, okay? So I don't want to, because the way you say it, it'll be wrong. Not you have 8 days to do it, but on the 8th day of your son being born, you have to do the circumcision, okay? But if you're, like how he said, if you bought somebody that's not of your household, that don't know the covenant, okay, then you just have to be circumcised. So even though Moses knew the covenant, because he circumcised his secondborn, despite how his, father-in-law felt, but the first one, he was just like, okay, your father had just imprisoned me for 10 years. he tried to kill me because he literally was going to starve him to death. But Zipporah went down there every day and fed him, okay? Secretly. So he was like, your father just tried to kill me and had me in jail for 10 years, okay? So I'm going to do what he want me to do for this first one, okay? And I'm not going to circumcise him. But the second one, I'm going to do what I know I'm supposed to do, okay? And his life was almost taken from him and his son, simply because he was too scared to stand up for what he knew was right, what he knew what was a part of his family's history, the covenant, okay? So, like I said, I feel like if you're not circumcised and you want to follow God, I feel like he'll give you the wiggle room to go get circumcised. But that is something that has to be done before you die. And I know it's gonna hurt worse as an adult, but hey, Abraham was 99 when he got circumcised, so you can do it. Okay, so what we have learned from this first promise is that God will, if you do it, he will make you very fruitful, okay? Like he told Abraham, he was going to make him fruitful and father of many nations. And every generation after them, if they keep this covenant, I will also make them fruitful as well. You will have big families, okay? And not even just fruitful as far as bearing children, but fruitful as, you know, living a good life, okay? Like, you will never have to want for anything, okay? He told them he would give them land, that's ownership, okay? So just by doing this first covenant, okay, you receive protection, okay? And you will receive fruitfulness through, you know, family and prosperity, okay? Like, you will have money, as you would put it. Back in the day, you know, their fruitfulness was having, you know, a whole bunch of animals and, you know, they harvest or whatever they specialized in, okay? By having a lot of it, that was their fruitfulness. But now today, fruitfulness would be having a, you know, more abundant of money, okay? And, you know, having a nice house or something like that, okay? And then you will have ownership, okay? Like, you won't be renting anybody's apartment, okay? You'll own your own home, okay? You will own your car. It would be paid off. It would be yours in your name, okay? And nobody can take it away from you. And that's the benefits you get of agreeing to completing this covenant, is you will have things that nobody can take from you, and you will have a long, happy, prosperous life, okay? And we're going to pick up here next week, okay? And we're going to continue with Moses' covenant, okay? And what it brings if you agree to follow it, okay? Love you, family.